Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo Podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Jemma, and joining me again this week, I have my two excellent friends. I have Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
Hello, good to be here again.
Hello. And of course, you can't have Kirk without Trev. Hi, Trev.
Well, you can sometimes. I'm not here
Yeah,
every week,
and
but I'm
Yeah,
glad to be here this week.
welcome back, both of you. Yes, of course you can. You're not joined at the hips, but I do love it when you're both on. So
yeah.
thank you for joining me this week.
We're
We've
not even
got
joined by a state line.
there you go.
Although we did share a bed at E3. So
We did. Yeah.
Yes.
Tough times call for tough measures.
what happens at E3 stays at E3.
Ah, memories. Yeah, you should put that into some sort of memoir, E3 memoirs.
You
Now that
still
it's
have
fun.
the
E3 after
audio?
dark.
Do you have the audio clip of my snoring that you recorded,
I
Trev?
do. It's
I
quite
won't
the
play that.
icebreaker at parties.
Yeah. Is it louder than my dog snoring, Kirk?
It's more bizarre.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Now
Like,
you piqued
you
my
know how you
curiosity.
watch those old specials on Bigfoot and they're like, I heard a sound I hoped I'd never have to hear again. Trev recorded it.
Right. Okay. Nature documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that we've got that out of our system, um, we, we've got a lot to talk about today, lots of news items, and we're going to talk about, of course, Luigi's mentioned 2 as one of the games that we're playing, which is just coming up. But plenty of interesting news throughout the week. So let's kick it off with the fact that there are 7 new titles added to Switch Online. This just came out of the blue, and seven's a big number. It's a lot to drop. So I believe they're all NES games. And Trev, I suppose I'm particularly interested in your thoughts because you are, and you love the NES. And I've played a couple of these, particularly Cobra Triangle stands out to me because I remember
Mm.
this one. Yeah, the boat racing one or the boat racing fighting. What do you do? It's like there's people are shooting at you and there's boats chasing you. It's quite a
Yeah,
chaotic one. I remember.
it is. And I have it as a cartridge, but I'm glad it's on Switch Online because it's a hard game. Um,
Mm, hmm.
it's like, I always say it's like RC Pro-Am on the water, but it's more, yeah, it's more chaotic than RC Pro-Am because there's a lot you gotta deal with. It's like action and platforming and bosses and
Mm,
um but it's a good game. So I'm happy that especially with these rare developed games or publishing games that weren't previously available or in recent years on Nintendo hardware because Xbox had them locked up or whatever. So to see some of these games from the rare replay compilation work its
hmm.
way over to the Switch is great.
Yeah. So which ones are rare titles? Like Rare, the company.
So yeah, so besides Cobra Triangle, which was rare developed, it was published by Nintendo, so it shows you the quality Rare had because they published a few of their games as first party titles.
Mm,
But Solar Jetman's the other one in this wave, and
yes.
that's also a very hard game.
It looks
But
very hard.
it is. But what's cool, obviously, with Switch Online, you don't have to try to beat the mission just to get your password or whatever. You can hit a save state halfway through or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, it's a really cool game though. It's tough to wrap your head around the controls. I'd say it's like an old school like Lunar Lander, but the gravity kind of changes between stages. So
Mhm.
it's like once you finally learn it, you got to like unlearn everything and kind of start fresh.
Yeah. Do you
But
have the cartridge
it's
for
a
this one as well?
I do, and
Cool.
I've never beaten it, but um, yeah, great game. It's got some gorgeous like cutscenes, like at the start and in between planets, and some really interesting music from David Wise. It's got like an eerie, almost unsettling, but kind of chill at the same time. I don't know how to.
Mhm.
I wish I knew music theory so I could describe it better, but it's one of the more interesting chiptune soundtracks I've heard.
Very cool. Yeah, I haven't tried that one, to be honest, and I didn't even know Cobra Triangle was a Rare, developed game. So yeah, that's really cool. The
Mm.
one what's after that? We've got what's the next
Some
one?
black box games.
Yeah, okay. Do you have cartridges for any of these as well?
I have golf,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's funny. I thought that was on Switch Online, but they actually had
Hmm.
the sequel, NES Open,
Ah, yeah. Hmm.
um, which is the better game, obviously. But golf has a lot of old school charm. I still play that with Jen actually every now and then. It's kind of nostalgic, and
Hmm.
of course, I think you mentioned in one of the recent shows, it lives on through like Wii Sports, where they took those
Yeah.
primitive 8-bit courses and brought them into more of a 3D arena. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Kind of nostalgic touch and keeping it alive with fans, even though I didn't even know for a long time that that was the case. Yeah, that's really cool. There's Mac Rider, which I do remember this one.
yeah,
This is a hard little racer, right? Like you're a motorbike rider.
it is hard, and
Yeah.
I think it's one of those. I have it, but it's been a while since I played it. But I think like the gas is one of those you have to hit up on the D-pad, I think.
Mm, mhm.
So it can work your thumb if I'm remembering it right. But what's cool being on Switch Online is Mach Rider had like a creative mode, like Excite Bike, where you could kind of build your own course.
Oh,
And of
cool.
course, renting that as a kid, it's like, oh, I build this thing, and of course, you can't save it. So the second you
Yeah.
power off the NES, it's gone.
Mm,
So
mhm.
being on Switch, if you're into that creative aspect, you can take advantage of it. Tough game, but it's a fun game. Good music, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you think it looks a little like the precursor to Mode 7? Like the way it has F-Zero vibes to me. Obviously, it's a lot older, but it just
Mm,
looks the way the road turns and twists and the kind of horizon sits there, and it seems like, I don't know, it's pretty good for its age, I think, even today.
yeah, I agree. It was an early release, even earlier because I think it was on Famicom first, right? So it would have been
Mhm.
even earlier than 85, 86.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
What else we got in the list? There's Kong Jun is it Kong Junior Math? Which I've
Yeah,
never
Donkey Kong Jr.
Kong
Math.
Junior Maths, yeah. Mhm.
That's um that's another one I thought was on Switch Online, but apparently not. Um, I will say it's not as bad as you might think.
Mhm.
And I base that because my wife's kind of a math geek or nerd,
Mhm.
and if you can get like some little competitive or co-op action going, it can be fun. But I can also see why the edutainment series in the NES never really extended beyond this, because what kid wanted to play a math game with DK Jr. when you could just play DK Jr.?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Worth
nice
checking out
concept.
once.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Sorry, we did miss one, I think, which was, I can't find the title of it. The one with the man in the cave. What's that one?
Urban Champion.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Which is a
That's
Sunsoft title, right?
oh, you're talking about the import.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what
That's
it's called.
yeah, it's like something Atlantis, Mystery of Atlantis,
Ah, yeah.
or
Mhm.
Atlantis no Nazo in Japan, which is the only game in this batch I have not played because it's a Famicom game.
Yes, that makes
So I
sense.
don't have a lot to say on it except that I'm glad to see them come over because
Yeah, it looks really cool. I meant to give it a go before the show, but it's like, I guess a side-scrolling kind of thing. You throw bombs at skeletons. You're in a cave doing some sort of exploration. Yeah, it looks kind of interesting. I def Yeah. And then there's, yeah, the final one, sorry, is it Urban Champion? The brawling street brawler or something like that?
yeah. Last and probably least, like it's interesting looking at this wave. Like Cobra and Solar Jetman, I think are top tier.
Mhm.
Golf and Mac Rider, I think have aged fairly well. And then you got DK Math and Urban Champion, which are kind of more at the bottom. But
Mhm.
it's Urban Champion's fun enough for a few minutes, but there's just no depth. And
Is
I
it
remember
literally just 2 guys fighting on the street and that's it?
pretty much you're trying to knock the other guy into like a manhole a few screens away, and
Oh, okay.
um, there's some good street scenery, and like a cop will drive by and you kind of whistle nonchalantly so you don't get arrested, and people
Yeah.
can chuck stuff from windows at you, but there's just not much depth, and
Mm.
even less so if you're not playing with a friend. I remember playing it on the 3DS. They had a 3D Classic version,
Oh, okay.
which
Mhm.
actually had a lot of work into it for such a mediocre game.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not available anymore. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's not as bad as people say, but it's also nothing to write home about, in
Mhm.
my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, well, that's 7 new titles available if you're a Switch Online member, so they're free to play, so why not check them out? I will definitely be checking some of those out, especially, yeah, Cobra Triangle, just because I have memories of playing that and, yeah, dying repeatedly. It was, yeah, tricky. It's very tricky. I wonder if I'll be any better now. Plus, I've got those quality of life kind of controls to sort of rewind, maybe get a bit
Yeah,
further than I used to. Yeah.
I know for sure there's at least one level. I'm trying to remember. I think it had like moving like ramps, like, and you had to like
Ah, yeah.
get it
Mhm.
to like it's like I'm getting PTSD thinking about it here, but
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for that, Trev. Let's move on. I wondered if either of you remembered a game that I talked about last year called The Godfeather, and it's about mafia pigeons. Do you remember me talking about this in October last year?
Yeah.
If not, you do, yes, because I also read an article about it because I met the devs at PAX in Australia,
Right.
and they're Australian themselves. They're an Australian team, Hojo Studios, and I just heard the news that they are getting their Switch release finally. So that's exciting. So that comes out in August. So I got some hands-on time last year at PAX. It would have been the Steam version, I think, but it was coming to Switch. It just hadn't got a date at that point. And it's a top-down perspective, and you're a pigeon flying through various environments, dropping poop on people according to whatever your current mission is. So it's a really fun concept. It's very cartoony in its graphical style. There's things that attack you. I think uh, drones and some sort of maybe an eagle or some sort of other bird that comes at you. If you report back to the mafia headquarters, and there's characters and all sorts of costumes and things. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one come out after, yeah, I after I'd spoken to them. They were very enthusiastic and talented developers. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more about that. There's a new trailer, so that news I will be posting on the site, so you can check out the new trailer as well. And wait until the Switch release on August 15th. So yeah, definitely talking about more about that one come August. But yeah, it's a nice little. It's a bit close to my heart because they're an Australian team as well. So I like to support my fellow
I thought
Australians.
you were gonna say because you're in the mafia or you have family in the
Yeah,
mafia.
I can't say that on air, Trav. No. Yes. So yes, more about that coming, but just wanted to highlight that as a nice little news item because yeah, it's a fun looking game, and hopefully I'll get to try it out and review it as well. So get some hands on time with the Switch release, which would be really cool.
I do
But
like the title,
yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
God
The Godfeather.
Feather.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love the graphics. It's very tongue in cheek with the humor. So I think it'll do well. They were very excited about having a Switch release at the time because they think it's going to work really well in handheld mode as well. So, and I think it's only going to be, I think it's about $12, something like that. So it's a good indie title kind of price bracket. So yeah, we'll definitely get some more hands-on time with that. But that's some exciting news that just came to me like yesterday. So very cool to hear that news. And speaking of cool releases, Kirk, we're excited that something has come out just today for like today of recording. What's
Yes.
got
Well,
you excited?
actually, yeah, it's kind of interesting. We have, I mean, I love my JRPGs, and I've
Mhm.
talked about some that I'm looking forward to. The first one I want to mention is East 10 Nordics has received a release date. Yesterday, it was announced that it's coming out October 25th for the
Oh,
Switch. That it's a ways off, but
mhm.
something to look forward to once I wrap up some of my other games and things I have going on. That could be a good, as I've been referring to them, Twilight title for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, we finally got a release date yesterday. But also today, two things happened regarding the Legend of Heroes. First, the Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak was released today.
Mhm.
And on the same day as the release, NIS America announced that they are bringing Trails Through Daybreak 2 to Western audiences as well. It's been out in Japan for a while, like the original Trails Through Daybreak. And it is going to be released for the Switch in early 2025.
Brilliant. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's a good
excellent.
time. I'm surprised more companies don't do this. Like the day you rush out to get the game, if you're a fan of the series, they
Mm.
also give you a little bit more good news. Oh, by the way, I hope you enjoy this because part 2 is only half a year away.
Yeah, and that's a good space for a JRPG because you need some time to
Yeah.
get through it. You don't want them every day. I mean, you
Yeah.
do want them every day, but you
Oh, yeah.
can't.
You,
You
you
physically
need to
can't.
take a break from these. They take over your world for a while.
Yeah,
And if you're a
exactly.
completionist, these games, the Legend of Heroes games, as I'll get into when we go to the games we're playing,
Hmm.
if you're a completionist and you don't have a walkthrough in front of you, you're going to just spend so much time in it trying to figure out how to get all of the accessories and all the costumes and everything else that you can grab throughout. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it could take half a year if you let it.
yeah, exactly. Half a year, and or probably even longer. Yeah, some of these games never really end, I guess, in some respects, which is good, of course, but yeah, you need time between each each outing. So
Yeah,
that's yeah, good to hear. Excellent. We're looking forward to those two releases. Early 2025. It does sound a while away, but we're already in July, so yeah, we're in the second half of the year now. So it'll come quickly. It'll come around
yeah,
quickly. Mm, very cool. Another update. I'm sure you guys love hearing me talk about Suica game, but it's that watermelon, or sorry, fruit merging game. Or Suica is watermelon in Japanese, isn't it? But yeah, it's the watermelon game that yeah I was a little bit obsessed with last year, and has sold extremely well on the Switch. By the way, it's like in the top. Is it in the top 10 or 20 games on the eShop? I think.
it's
Anyway,
up
it
there.
just yeah, it's up there, and it's just a cute. It's actually super cute the way they've designed it. It's also quite cheap, and it is fun. It's a fruit merging game, right? It's just something you can pick up and play anytime. But the point of me bringing it up today is that, and one of the reasons I like the developers is that they keep adding content to it, and this isn't like a new mode or anything like that. It's just skins, but it's free, and it just keeps things feeling fresh. And it's like, well, here's something for you to, I don't know, to change the look of it for a season. They did this last Christmas. I think they did it for Halloween as well. And now what they've done is released some summer skins. So there's 4 different themes, summer related themes, because over in the northern hemisphere it's summer right now. Not for me in the southern hemisphere, but that's okay. But yeah, I just like that they keep adding these little niceties to keep it feeling fresh, and maybe encourage people to go back. I haven't played it for a couple of months, and well, I'd like to see the new skins, so I'll probably download it.
How does a skin work in a game where you're mainly just looking at fruit?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the background, but it's the title screen and
Okay,
the actual I think the little thing at the top that drops the fruit changes as well. So they skin it. So they just
all right,
basically cover it or update the look of it. And it's usually what they did with the Christmas one was you could switch between the classic or normal kind of style and the Christmas style. So I'm not sure with the summer one if that's the same case. You can switch between these new 4 themes or not. But that's generally what they've been doing is kind of and it's well the Christmas one at least, and assume the summer one as well. It's not permanently there. It's like a time limited thing. So Christmas was only there for whatever a month or something. Same with Halloween. So it's not there anymore. And then summer, I assume, would be the same. It would just be there for a limited time and then drop off, which I don't know how they drop it
Hmm.
off. Like, I know you download it to get it. How do they time it to not be there anymore? I don't know. That's a good question.
probably pre-coded.
Yeah,
Then you
probably.
download it and added it as an end date, maybe.
Could be. The Christmas one was really cute because it looked just, it looked Christmassy. It had snow falling and all that sort of thing that you might associate with that time of year. And it had different music as well, which was really nice. Because the music is a big part of it. It's very cute and catchy, but having a completely different theme song was quite it's changes it a lot more than you would realize just because you're used to that sound. So it really felt like a proper theme to me, and it was completely free. So yeah, seems like a small detail, and it is, but it's just a nice little thing they don't have to do, and they do. So it's probably because no, it actually came to Switch first. I was going to say because it was a mobile title, and they can easily just do. skins on mobiles. But and even though it is on iOS now, I believe, I don't think it came out on iOS first. I think it was a Switch title first, from memory. Anyway,
Do
whatever
you think
reason.
it was a bestseller because they had that trial, like where it was free? Do you think that?
Could have been. Like, that would definitely help things, right? But I mean, was it a free trial in Japan, which is where it's sold extremely well? I don't know. I
Mm,
think it's also
yeah.
just because the fruit look really cute. They just do, like, they look like little anime fruit kind of thing. They have little eyes and yeah, they're squishy.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the trial definitely helped. That's what got me into it. So yeah, absolutely. Mm. But they do the trials region by region, so I just don't know if they did it across the world or not. Um, yeah, I just think maybe Japan likes that sort of thing. Or Japanese players potentially seem to enjoy it, which is cool. Yeah. So now for some interesting news. Not that the rest hasn't been interesting, but these are kind of a bit more quirky. So the first one is that you may or may not have heard that a Zelda fan was arrested for carrying a little 6-inch Master Sword replica. Which was this in the UK, Trev? Where was this? Where did this happen?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have been in the U.S. because, as I was saying beforehand, we can carry assault weapons, and depending on where you are, not get you know double
Mm,
take. But
mhm,
um, it's it's an interesting story. When I first read it on a couple of gaming sites, and then I had a friend mention it from a different gaming site, I said there's got to be more to this because it just even with different laws, in different parts of the world, it didn't seem right. 6 inches is tiny. Like I don't
mm,
have huge hands, and that's my hand's bigger than that, right?
mhm,
So I want to just give a shout out to Eric Kane from Forbes, who actually gave some much needed context to understand why such a seemingly simple act would result in incarceration. And um, well, yeah, apparently the guy's got a criminal record, but apparently he was also just I don't know. What were you saying, Kirk? He held it out. He was waving it around, something like that,
Yeah,
approaching
according to the
them.
article, like was he was coming up to the cops, he was holding it out in front of him, not like at his side or just going off what I see here. So
Yeah.
and they pointed out in the article too. Do we know he's a Zelda fan?
I was just thinking that. There's no
Just
evidence of that, is there? Apart from the fact he's holding a Zelda-related item.
yeah,
He's not like,
How much
"Oh,
is this sword? Maybe
yeah,
that would determine how much of a fan he is. How much did this
yeah,
cost?
true. Yeah,
yeah.
what
And
is
what's
it?
it made of? Like I'm looking at the picture of it. It looks shiny. Like it could actually be like a die-cast metal, right? So at that point, if you've got a 6-inch pointy die-cast metal item in your hand, that's a weapon.
Mm,
I mean, it
yeah.
may be plastic. I can't tell from the photo, but it sure looks metal to me.
Yeah, what is the point? I mean, I love the Master Sword, obviously. Excuse me, I'm a Zelda fan, but I don't really want a tiny Master Sword. What's the point of wielding this little thing? I don't get it.
Maybe he just found it. Maybe he was in the
Maybe.
woods.
Yes.
He didn't buy it. He just stumbled across it, and now
It's like,
poor
I'm
Link's
the
gonna be
hero.
like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm the hero of time. Yes. There's a lot of good questions there. And I think also the article that you've referenced there, Trav, mentions that this area in the UK is quite renowned for knife violence, knife-related violence.
Yeah.
A
So
high
if they're
number of
already on high alert for that,
yeah, exactly. So I think if readers hadn't had the full, sorry, well, listeners for us, but if people who had read the article who are listening to us now, um, were not aware of that context and thinking, oh, this is so unfair. Why is this guy being arrested? There's definitely more to that story. Thank you, Trev, for digging that up. Yeah, because he has a history, and yeah, it is UK. Obviously, the rules are different, and there's this high, like for over 5,000 knife offences were recorded in the region last year. So, and some were murders. So there's definitely a precedent for like stopping people brandishing pointy weapons. you know, so it'd be different if he just had it in his bag or he was just taking it out at a show, like if he was, you know, cosplaying as Link, perhaps with a tiny tiny sword for some reason. Yeah,
tiny Link, the
Yeah.
Minish Cap Link, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Uh,
very interesting. Any more to that
it's
story?
interesting though. This guy
Mhm.
gets 4 months, and that girl who smuggled all the Switch games in her bra, what'd she get? Slap on the wrist. So,
Yeah. She got a
yeah.
fine. Yeah, I think she got some sort of fine, didn't she? She got some dollar value, hundreds of dollars. I can't even remember now. Yeah, there was a dollar value to that. But yeah.
So
Yeah.
take your Mini Master sword and conceal it in your clothing, and then
Yeah.
you'll get less of a.
Mm. Interesting. Very interesting. Any more to that story from your perspective, Trev? Okay.
It's just
No.
weird. It's
It's
just
weird.
weird.
It's weird. It is weird. The next story is the final nail in the Wii U coffin. And was this a Trev discovery as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, for us in the U.S. and probably even where you are, Gemma, I don't know if they've done Wii U repairs, but apparently in
Mm.
Japan now
Mm.
there's the repairs are done. Lack of parts or just maybe probably a lack of demand too. But it just got me thinking that the Wii U now is like a retro hardware, right? It came out
Mm.
over 10 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
been
Mhm.
completely discontinued from games to online to now even having parts and repairs. So take care of what you have. The gamepad especially is not the most maybe durable, even though it kind of looks like a big toy. So
Mhm. Yeah.
just be gentle. And I know a lot of the Wii U games have been brought to Switch, but the Wii U's still cool. I mean, I still play Wii U. In fact, I just bought a couple games on Wii U, so physical games anyway. So just be careful.
Yeah, and
And
that's sorry, Kirk, you go.
I was going to say, and apparently turn it on a lot because in some the article that at Games Radar that Trev linked here, it mentioned that some people are having trouble where if they don't turn it on for a long time, then it doesn't come on.
Oh, that's a good tip.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's just an age thing or if it's because it's been off for a while. I know it works for us. I still have mine in the basement down. And I think I mentioned that Sophie and her boyfriend were playing through Trauma Team recently
Mm.
on the Wii U, even though it's a Wii game. So yeah, mine's good. Coincidentally, though, the gamepad is the only Nintendo product I've had that I ever had to ship off for repair.
Mm.
Really? What happened
Yeah.
to it?
The the connection between the gamepad and the system shrunk. I don't know what to say. Like I couldn't get them to connect unless I
Oh,
was standing within like a foot of the
right.
system. So if I was playing a game, I had to almost like be standing up next to the bookcase that we had the system on. So
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
had to send it
Okay.
off, and they had to replace like something about the Wi-Fi sensor. But yeah,
Interesting.
I had to ship it off. It was gone for like 3 weeks.
What year was that? How long ago, do you think?
Well, it was before the Switch came out. I was
Oh, okay.
playing at the time. I was playing the new version of what was I playing? Oh, the Zelda game. What was the one with Toon Link? The wand one, the
Oh, the
wizard.
Wind
I
Wind
can't remember.
Waker.
Wind
Oh yeah,
Waker.
Wind
Thank
Waker
you.
Yeah.
HD.
Again,
Mm.
you get my memory.
Okay.
But yeah, I was playing through that and had to stop. So it was apparently soon after that was released.
You didn't have to stop. You just had to. You could have. How badly did you want to play it, Kirk? You could have just stood right next to the TV.
That's true. Well, I had to stop when I sent it away. So
Yeah, true, true.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. And yeah, apparently we did know that this was coming at some point. Well, I guess it's obvious. If they run out of parts, they can't fix the system anymore. But that's happened now. So you're saying, Trev, it's this is just Japan at the moment, but you think it might have also affected US and other areas?
Yeah, I think in the U.S. That actually already had been the case. I think
Right.
Japan was the last kind of holdout,
Oh, wow,
and
okay. Mhm.
ultimately,
Mm.
it's probably not a significant thing in the grand scheme, but it just sort of is a symbolic kind of end in my mind. It's like, wow, the Wii U is. I remember getting the Wii U brand new. See, it doesn't even seem that long ago, and now it's a
Yeah.
retro console.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
here we are on the successor, and the successor is already dated, right? In its
Yeah.
seventh
Yeah.
year. So uh,
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
marches on.
It does. I like that the article that you've referenced, does call the Wii U an underrated previous gen console. Like he's kind to it. If it's a male author, sorry, I don't know, but the writer is kind. No, it's a female. Sorry, Catherine. But yes, she says, yeah, she calls it an underrated console. So I do love that. It's not like she's saying
Mhm.
it's that black sheep that no one likes, because it is underrated, and we have our moments that we love with it. So just didn't
Mm,
sell very well, and it maybe wasn't marketed well or named well. But yes, we won't go into
mm.
that.
But it
Yeah.
lives
So
on. Most of its great games found a second life on Switch. So
Yep.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, exactly. So thank you, Trev, for bringing that to our attention. It's kind of a sad moment, inevitable. Hopefully people look after their Wii U's if they have them. After the show, I'm going to turn mine on because I haven't done that in a few months, and now I'm worried. So thank you for that.
Well,
Listeners,
there's
go do
always
that.
somebody on the internet who knows how to fix it. He'll just have to
Yeah,
pay a little more, I'm sure.
that is true. That is
If
true.
I could still get it in television repaired somewhere, then you'll be able
Yeah,
to get the Wii U
yeah,
repaired.
that's true. I think
yeah.
I've never had to send it off, but I did have an issue with the power cables. I had to buy a new one. I can't remember what went wrong with it, but it didn't work, and I had to get a new one. That was it. It worked fine. So it's still plugged in. I just haven't turned it on. So I'm gonna do that definitely. Thank you for that. And that was our last piece of news. So now we can move on to the games that we're playing. And I'm very excited to hear, first of all, from Kirk about your experience so far with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. How's it going? Are you enjoying yourself?
Not as much as I could be because I made the mistake after we got the code that I told my wife, and she was
Ah,
like, "Okay, well, I'm playing that," and boy, has she has she been playing that.
yeah.
I don't think she spent this much time. Let's see, well, she did Pikmin. Yeah, I guess
Mhm.
Pikmin 4 was the last time that she sat down in front of the Switch and played some games.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, what a fun, goofy, wonderful combination of puzzle and action this game
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And it made me think, was this Luigi's like really first solo game? Was it the first time he was kind of out on his own?
The first one wasn't it, Trev?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when it launched on GameCube, as far as I
Mhm.
know, anyway.
I like that they just gave him something completely different to do, kind of like they just did with Peach when they finally gave her
Yes, I
first
thought the
game.
same
It's
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
completely
wait, I'm
separate.
sorry to interrupt. What about Mario is Missing? Didn't Luigi star in that? That was like a Carmen
Yeah.
Sandiego esque. I don't
Yeah.
think we really count that, but technically it exists.
Technically, yes. We just
Okay, well,
will ignore that. The first mainline continuing
Yes,
series for Luigi, yes.
first party Luigi.
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Well, maybe if he hadn't gone searching for Mario, then his whole neighborhood wouldn't have become so haunted.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But stay home and keep the ghosts away. But
Mhm.
and I want to say something because my absolute favorite thing about this game, and I'd forgotten about it, is the fact that Luigi hums along with the
Yes.
soundtrack music while it's going on.
I
I
know.
think that's absolutely wonderful and it's so cute.
It is. It is very it is very
It's
cute.
just like so nervous, like when you're walking in a empty parking lot and you get kind of scared, so you whistle a little bit or hum to kind of give off that exude some confidence and control, even though you're
Yes.
terrified. And so he's doing it throughout the whole game. It's very funny.
It is. It's
Um,
very cool. It's those little details, isn't it? Like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I'd forgotten. Like I said, I played it on the 3DS, and maybe I didn't finish it because at first I'm like, I remember this. I remember this. I haven't gotten as far as Tyranny has, but I'm watching her play, and I'm like, I have no memory of this particular location. So I thought I'd
Mm.
finished it, but I guess I didn't. I guess it was just one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's very puzzle heavy. Of course, you really have to think hard about how to get to certain areas, how to defeat a lot of the bosses. You really got to think things through instead of just running in. And then once you get it, then it's pretty easy to play. The one thing I don't like about it is the amount of, well, I don't like that once you go into the mansion you kind of have to keep going until you finish and then go back in order to save your game. I wish there was a way, and if there
Mm.
is, I'm just missing it, to actually save your progress while you're exploring instead of either abandoning the mission or making it to the end. And then it sounds like I'm going to contradict myself here, but there's a lot of stuttering in the game. Like as you go, you'll suddenly get whisked back um, to the lab, I guess we'll call it, so you can get
Yeah.
more exposition. Oh, now you can do this, and now you can do this. Like a lot of times, I just want to keep pushing ahead, and suddenly I'm transported back, and that it kind of breaks up the flow of it a little bit. But that right now is my only complaint, and it does
Mm.
look great on the Switch. I think I was mentioning it beforehand that you could tell a lot of it was made for 3D. Like there are a lot of effects where they have things coming up straight to the screen. Like when you see a 3D movie in 2D and it just seems weird the
Yep.
way some of the things are shot. There is a
Hmm.
lot of that, but they did a really good job of remastering it. It's very colorful and very attractive to look at.
Mm. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. I have been tinkering with the 3DS version because I haven't picked up the Switch version yet. So I thought I'll give the 3DS version a try since I still have it on hand and then I can kind of compare it to your experience. And I, like you, I noticed straight away because I'd forgotten about the humming. I did. I was playing it last night and just, yeah, the cute little humming noises he makes. Even just the way he kind of shakes and shivers when he's standing still and gets nervous.
Yeah, every
Um,
time he puts a key in a lock and you can see his hand,
yeah,
like, I don't want to go any further.
yeah. Are there any differences in the new version apart from the graphics, obviously? Like, I know at the very beginning of the game, it's very, you kind of mentioned the interruptions of coming back to the lab. Also, and I know the first level is more or less a tutorial to show you the ropes, but
Yeah.
Professor Egad, and maybe this is meant to be a joke, but he interrupts you a lot with his little. In the 3DS version, you get this device, which is actually a special DS. They call it like it's a DS that he's enhanced. What do they call it in the Switch version? Is it still a DS? And B, does he still interrupt you quite as many times, or is it reduced?
I can't remember the actual gag. Yes, they still call it a DS because they make a joke about what a wonderful device having like dual screens.
Right.
I can't remember the actual joke, but I remember when it happened, I thought, I wonder if that was told the same way in the 3DS version. Um,
I unless I skipped past it, I didn't see that gag. I know it's a DS because I saw that. I'm like, "Oh, cool, it's a DS." And
yeah,
I'm playing on a 3DS, so that makes sense. I thought they
Could
might have
they be
changed it to Switch.
teasing Switch 2 or Switch Pro as a dual
Ooh,
screen system?
maybe. Yeah, like,
Egad's got some
probably?
info. We need to
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
need to get warped to the
Mhm.
lab and find out what's going on.
And
That's
he's a
our
bit
Switch
me
rumor of the week.
yeah. You heard it here first, folks. He's a little bit mean to Luigi, like in a sort of humorous way, like pull yourself together kind of thing, and why are you so scared? That sort of thing, and making him do all the hard work when he gets to sit in the lab. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, he's funny.
yeah, and he's a scientist, so you'd think he would be a little more, understanding. But
Mm-hmm.
I do. If someone's going to be mean to you, you may as well do it in the voice that he uses because it's hard to be offended by anything when he's just going cha 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 cha
Yeah,
or whatever it is. I can't
yeah.
even do it.
No, that was pretty good, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded a little bit like
I wish more
horror.
people in my life would only speak that way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like your boss comes at you with a task that you don't wanna do, but says it like that, you might be
Yeah.
like yeah.
Hey, I
Yeah.
got a question for you because I haven't played it. You mentioned you were like watching Tyranny play, and then you're playing yourself. From what I understand, like the main game isn't like multiplayer, but there are multiplayer modes. Is
Yeah, I
that
Yes,
right?
there are.
believe so.
Yes,
Yeah.
I haven't gone into any of them yet. Like I said, mainly because when Tyranny's playing it, once she starts a game, that's her life until it's over with. And you don't want to interfere, and you don't want to offer advice when she's having trouble. She's going to get through. So we're watching, and she's like, I can't figure this out. I'm like, hold on, let me get a walkthrough. We did have to access a walkthrough for one of the bosses. Which one was it? There's one where you have the three sisters that are kind of
Mm.
like circling around, and they're holding these mirrors, so you can't use your strobe at them. But
Mhm.
occasionally, one of them will lower the strobe, and that's when you got to hurry up and zap that one, and then catch that one while the other two are trying to attack you. So
Mm,
I needed a reminder of how to take on that group.
yeah.
But so yeah, because we're still pushing through the single player, we haven't looked at the multiplayer modes yet, but we will.
Yeah. And it's a reminder. I mean, again, I'm only playing the 3DS version, but I imagine it's very similar because it's, it's been done on the Switch before with Luigi's Mansion 3. But even just the gameplay mechanics are really neat, with the Poltergust
Yeah,
5000 and the strobes, you flash the ghosts and suck them in. It's a really, and I love what that you said at the very beginning of this conversation, that this is Luigi's outing and it's different to Mario's, because I had the exact same thought, even though I've played all three games in the series before. Just picking this one up again on the 3DS yesterday, and just thinking again about how unique it is for him, and it's not just a Mario clone, or it's not anything to do with Mario. It's completely different world, completely different characters, completely different concept with the whole ghost catching business. Yeah, I just love that. And I think I might have mentioned it in maybe my Peach review, my Peach Showtime, Princess Peach Showtime review, that this is like Luigi's Mansion for Peach kind of thing, like a little world for her. So yeah, I love that comparison. Very cool.
yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think I'm a bigger fan of the Luigi's Mansion games than I am of maybe any of the Mario family games out there.
Really? The
Yeah,
3D ones as well?
yeah,
Do you mean yeah,
yeah.
okay.
I would. Yeah, I just there's something about Luigi's Mansion. I don't know what it is, but I
Mhm.
love all of them.
Yeah, they are. I love that they're different, and I love that it's, because Mario Odyssey is fantastic and one of my favorite games.
Yeah,
Um, but it's different. You know, you don't even jump in Luigi's Mansion, whereas Mario is all about jumping. You've got to jump as Mario. But Luigi doesn't need to jump. He just
nope.
needs to walk with the with his vacuum cleaner. Yeah, it's just such a good take on his character. It's really, really well done. I can't wait to see another one in the series, hopefully. I was thinking though, and again, I'm playing the 3DS version, not the Switch one, but I wonder why they did this one and not the first one. Only because, well, a couple of reasons, and you might have an answer, but I was thinking because the 3D visuals are really good. Like I was looking at it when I was playing, going, "Ah, these are so good. This is a game that really looks good in 3D." And like you said, some of those scenes were made for 3D. And Luigi's Mansion 1, I don't know what year that came out, but Luigi's Mansion 2, I think it's about 11 years old, 2013 maybe. Do we know how old Luigi's Mansion 1 is? I imagine it's
That
about
was a
20.
GameCube launch title.
Mm. So it must be
So
about
2001.
20. Yeah, 20 something. Yeah, it would have
Mhm.
been good to see the first one maybe and then the second, or a package or something, I don't know. But do
Yeah,
you think this
My
one's,
2001.
my only
yeah.
thought on that, and I think it's similar to why the Switch hasn't gotten like Yoshi's Woolly World, is both Luigi's Mansion and Yoshi's Woolly World got late 3DS ports. So
Yeah.
maybe they think it's they like to spread their content. It's, people have been
Mhm,
screaming for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and
mhm.
those still haven't arrived. So Luigi's Mansion being a when did that come out on 3DS? It was after Switch. So 2017, maybe even 2018.
Oh, the
It's still
first one.
Yeah,
yeah, it's still
2018.
Ah,
fairly
yeah.
recent.
Yeah, okay, that makes
Um,
sense.
by Nintendo's timetable anyway, because they're not like gamers, right? We want everything right away, and
Yeah, yeah. And I had forgotten that was
Nintendo.
the case, to be honest. I didn't pick it up on 3DS, the original. I had it on the GameCube, so yeah, interesting. Hmm. Anything else to add, Kirk, to your time with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD?
Not yet, but hopefully I would say my review will be up by next week when we record. So I'm sure I'll have more thoughts then, including more on the multiplayer. I'll go through that with my family and we'll offer some insight
Cool.
there as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Trev, are you gonna pick it up at some point? Are you interested, or time is a bit of a factor, I guess?
Well, time's always a factor, time and money, but I have never
Mm.
played a Luigi's Mansion game,
Oh,
unless you count
Really?
like the track in Mario Kart or something like
Oh,
that.
wow. I'm very
So
surprised. Yeah, it's
yeah, I feel like every Nintendo fan has a couple series where they just haven't touched, and people are always like shocked. But
yeah.
man, there's just so many games, and a lot of it's sometimes it can come down to timing or just gameplay style or financial situation at the moment or whatever the case may be. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, I've got no insight to offer except that I remembered the port coming to 3DS.
yeah, yeah.
But
You are always good with that kind of information, so thank you. Yeah, I just figured you'd have it on GameCube or something, but no, that's cool. Well,
yeah,
one for
and
the
I know
one.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't have Paper Mario on GameCube either,
true.
right?
Yeah,
And that was
true.
another hit. So I
Yeah.
felt like I had a lot of GameCube games, but
Mm.
evidently I missed some.
Yeah. It's like when someone, of our kind of generation hasn't seen Star Wars. I'm like, "What? How have you not seen Star Wars?" I know they exist, but I just thought everyone had seen it.
Or someone who
Anyway.
only saw like 10 minutes of Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah, what's with that, honestly?
I
We're never
wish
gonna
I'd only seen 10 minutes of Return of the Jedi. My memories would still be good.
we're never gonna let you live that down, are we?
Uh,
All right, well, let's move on. I am playing a game called Braid, the Anniversary Edition, which is a slightly older game, as in it came out, I think, around May, potentially. It's a bit of a delayed review for us, but I picked it up. I was not aware of this one. Probably a lot of people are, and I'm assuming you would be, Trev. Potentially Kirk as well. I don't know, but Trev, you just seem to know all the games. But this is a puzzle platformer, and I don't think it ever came to a Nintendo device, which is probably why I wasn't aware of it. But it was an indie, like, darling back in the day. I think it's around, what was it, 2008 or something like that? Some sort of time frame like that. But it was apparently sort of funded by the guy who made it at the time. He took the whole, platforming genre and tried to move away from certain tropes and things like that. Anyway, you can tell a lot of love was put into it. It's a very pretty looking game, has lovely music, and it's quite different in the way it plays in terms of it's not like a platformer where you have, uh, I don't know, a start and an end and there's a boss, or it's more like there are little sections of levels that you go through, and they're puzzles that you need to well, as in the level is a puzzle, but also you have to find these puzzle pieces within the level and collect them and then make a little and actually put them together into a actual picture using the puzzle pieces. But the other interesting thing is there's a time mechanic to it. So you can rewind at any point. I think you press the Y button. So I realized this the first time I died because I fell off a cliff or I hit an enemy or something, and it just says press what. Like the screen kind of goes gray, and it's very colorful usually, and then suddenly it goes gray and it stops. Everything stops, and you kind of where you died, you're stationary, and then there's a little indicator to press the Y button. So you press the Y button, and everything moves backwards, and then you can go back to where you were and try it again. So there's no real death in this game. It's all the time mechanic is very much part and parcel of the proceedings, and you need to use that to solve the puzzles as well. So, for example, there's some sections that don't rewind, like they're kind of highlighted in green. And so, if you're trying to get to this puzzle piece and there's this platform that moves left to right, and if you rewind, it doesn't move. You kind of need to get it into a position where you want it to be and then rewind yourself so that you're in the right spot and then fall down to the puzzle piece, if that makes sense. It's kind of trippy. Like it really messes with your mind a little bit in terms of just the brain power sometimes. And when you get it though, it's like, oh, that is so clever. It's like, and so that was one of the things I was reading about the history of this game. That's one of the things the developer really wanted people to do, is to figure it out for themselves and get that. Wow, that I feel really good about that. That feeling you get when you actually figure it out for yourself. So that's very strong. That's a very strong element. The other thing with this anniversary edition is completely revamped graphics. It already looked beautiful, but it looks even more beautiful now. They've added, I think it said something like 9 pixels per pixel for the character, for example. So he's a lot more clear, I guess. I think he looked pretty good. I love games that switch between old and new graphics as well, and you can do that instantly with the touch of, I think it's the R button, or maybe it's the R stick. Sorry. Anyway, there's a button you press and it switches between old and new. They both look good to me, but yes, the especially on handheld, it's a little harder to discern the difference. But
Can you switch it
um,
right on the fly, or does that,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah. Switch on the fly.
you don't
Yep.
have to go into a menu or load it up
Yep.
or anything?
Just press a button and it changes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool, and you will love this, Trav. There is a huge amount of commentary and developer insights, and you can actually run it. You can run this commentary mode while you're playing the game, kind of like a movie, like a DVD that has that director's commentary while you're watching it. It's like that.
Yeah, I remember there was a there's a game Thomas was alone, and it's got a
Mm,
similar feature. Like you beat the game, and then you can play through it with the developer commentary. I really like that a lot. I must have missed that when
mm.
I looked at the game because that's definitely my type of thing.
Yeah,
That's
I can't
awesome.
believe this was sitting in our review queue for so long, honestly. It's, because of its history, and as I said, I hadn't heard of it, so maybe, some others on the team hadn't either, but it's just such a lovely game, and even from the very beginning, like literally the start of the game, when you turn it on, usually you see a title screen with a menu, right? And this is something he addressed. I read this after I played it. It says the title Braid in the top, but I'm like kind of waiting for it to load because nothing's happening. There's no press a button or anything like that. And I realized it's because my little dude is standing there. I can just walk. Like the game just starts. You're in the title screen moving. It's just like these little things he really wanted to change up the formula and just make it really immersive. So I really appreciate that. And that, as I said, it was very well received at the time because it was one of those. It was kind of a big indie game, like as in made a big impact. So it's 20 years later. It's not or whatever, however long it's been, 15, 20 years. Um, Obviously, this is not having an impact today as much, although it is a little bit on me because I haven't played it before. But it's just lovely to see this beautiful game that's been potentially brought to a new audience, such as myself, and the love and detail that's been given to it. It's very nice. So that's what I'm playing this week, and I'll be writing up my review very soon. The other thing I just want to mention to listeners, if you are interested in this game, if you've heard of it or not, or you just liked my description of it, it is 20% off at the moment until the 15th of July. And that brings it down to what was the price? I can't remember now. Sorry. I just will quickly check for
Is it
you.
like 15, $16, something like that, or Australian equivalent?
Yeah, I think so, because I think it was around the 20 mark originally. And so with the discount, it is 15.99. Yeah, so it's usually 19.99. I think that's US. 15.99 at the moment. Definitely worth it. It's got a lot to it in terms of the puzzles. Will keep your brain taxed for some time. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Let's move on to you, Trev. What are you playing at the moment?
Well, I'm still wrapping up Beyond Good and Evil. I'd hoped to have that
Mhm.
review up by now, but stay tuned for that. That may surprise you. But the game I got on the list for this week is Parasol Stars, which you might not know from that title, but the subtitle or moniker is The Story of Bobble 3,
Cool.
which is especially exciting for me because both my wife and I are big Bobble fans. We both
Mm.
remember playing the game on the NES as kids, not together, obviously, because I didn't know her when I was a little kid. But it's one of those games that I feel like we could play through almost any time because it's a classic and it's so much fun in co-op. I
Mm.
haven't played it with her yet. I've just played a bit on my own, but um, it's very very colorful. It's interesting because in some ways it feels very different, and then in other ways there's no mistake. It's a bubble game. So I kind of like that balance, and I just like a pick up and play arcade game, especially coming off some bigger games like Paper Mario or Beyond Good and Evil isn't really a big game per se, but I guess it is if you do a lot of the side content. But yeah, it's nice to have a game like this that doesn't require a great deal of thought or even necessarily dexterity. Not that it's necessarily an easy game, but it's
Mm.
got those arcade mechanics, which ideally simple to learn, tough to master. So um, I like it a lot. I actually remember this game from back in my younger years. It was on the Turbo Graphics, and back in the day when I had that system, I wanted this game, but I never got around to picking it up. Probably because of the cost issue. I don't know. So it's great to have it on Switch for $10, and actually 10% off if you get it It's actually not even out yet. It's going to be out a few days after this episode airs. So
Mm,
if you catch it up in that launch window, you get 10% off. So $8.99. And
cool.
yeah, I think it's worth it, especially if you get somebody you think you could play it with, because the Bubble Bobble games and the Puzzle Bobble spin-offs and just Bub and Bob are so,
Yeah.
they're cute. And not that they're in this game, but that gameplay lives on, and that style lives on, and collecting things and wiping out enemies. It's still very much in that formula. So if you played Bubble Bobble, you're gonna click with Bubble Bobble 3 very quick.
So why is it called The Story of Bubble Bobble 3?
That's a good question. I don't actually know, so I'm just gonna guess.
Okay.
I think because the the characters, I think it's because they have their human persona instead of their little dinosaur persona, or not
Oh.
dinosaur, dragon, I guess. But I always thought of them
Mm.
as dinosaurs. But
Yeah, me too.
um, dinosaur dragons, let's just say that.
Yeah.
I think maybe because they're trying to see. I don't know. I wish I knew you were going to ask that. I would have looked it up. I'm going to have to do
Sorry.
a little deep dive and see if I can figure out why. But it was a little confusing because when I was a kid, I don't think the game was marketed with that moniker or subtitle. It was just called
Mm.
Parasol Stars, and it was only by looking at the screenshots that you're kind of like, wait, this looks quite a bit like it's in the Bubble Bobble mode. And then you see, Taito, and wait a minute, this is a Bubble Bobble game, just under a
Okay.
different name. So I don't know if they were trying to spin off like they did with Puzzle Bobble or Bust a Move.
Right. Yeah.
But that's my guess.
Yeah. But essentially, it's Bubble Bobble 3. It's actually the third in the series, sort of,
Yeah.
kind of. Okay,
I'd
that
like
sounds
to see
good.
Bubble Bobble 2 come to Switch Online, by the way. That was a rare NES game. So I'm
Yeah,
glad to see Parasol Stars, but let's see the second one too.
yeah, yeah. Interesting they didn't do a collection. I know I say that all the time, but why not a collection, a Bubble Bobble collection? That'd be cool. It'd probably be like
Because they know people will buy them individually. That's why.
true, and I guess they can keep the cost down, like 8.99 or whatever it was, or $10 is it usually? Is probably a
Yeah.
bit more manageable than if it was a package, like if it was a collection, it would probably be 30, 40, depending how many games they stuffed into it. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
$10 more of an
yeah.
impulse buy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that could be it. Mm. Well, that's awesome. Is that a review game for you or just a fun game?
No, it's a review game. Kirk
Cool.
actually turned me on to this one.
Nice.
I think I'd forgotten about it, or maybe I wasn't even aware of it. But yeah, you
Yeah.
get a list of offers, and I saw that, and I'm like, my wife will kill me if I pass up on this. So I'm like, I
Is
definitely got
it
to grab it.
is it revamped graphics or anything like that, or is it kind of just classic style?
I don't know. It looks like how I remember screenshots back in the day, but
Mhm.
then again, as a kid, I remember games being gorgeous, and then I revisit them, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of ugly. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll have to
okay.
find out exactly what the options are. I know there's different options and settings,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I'll have to dig
Cool.
into them a little more and see what I
Awesome.
unearth.
Oh, thank you. Well, we look forward to hearing more about that one. And the last one is Kirk again. Back to you, circling back and completing the closing things up with you. What are we excited about? What are we playing again besides Luigi's Mansion?
We're going to go back to The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak.
Nice.
My review just went up today, and I gave it a 8, I believe, out of 10. It's probably of all the Trails games that were built for modern consoles as opposed to some of the older ones. Like there are a lot of older games on the Switch that were ported over from like the Vita, I believe.
Mhm.
It's my second favorite that I've played.
That's
So
good.
I'm very happy with it. As I mentioned in the review, this is a huge story. I think we are maybe, what did I say in the review? 10 games into the series. And this is just the trails. They had games even before this, and the developers have said they're halfway through telling this story.
Oh, wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that you need to play them all. It's, this one takes place a few years after the Trails of Cold Steel game, of which there were 4 two of which came to the Switch. And then there was kind of like a bonus game that they released also called Trails into Reverie, I believe, which kind of tied things up and sent to get people off on another adventure. But all new characters, except for a couple that carried over, all new setting. And it still has that melodrama that I enjoy. There's a lot of shady characters that you meet. Some bad guys, you're like, are they really bad guys? And good guys, you're like, yeah, that person's going to turn on me.
Yeah.
But just a lot of fun as far as the JRPGs go. I mentioned before the combination of the real-time and the turn-based battle systems, and how those play together. So you can kind of push through a lot of your exploration faster because you're not stopping to go into turn-based battles. You could just hack away with your sword for a while, kill them, and then get the experience you need. So you're less likely to avoid fights, and therefore you're leveling up the way you're supposed to be. So I think it's a really cool system. And if you don't want to do the live action battles, you can just initiate turn-based right away on everything if you need to. So
Do they have 6-inch replica swords?
there are a lot of different characters with a lot of different weapons. Some of them may be 6-inch replica swords. I just haven't seen them yet. They've got and that's one of the fun things about this game is there are so many characters in it, but they're all so distinctive. And they really go out of the way to put them in like some of the best cosplay outfits you can imagine. There's like one of the women's in like a cat suit this time, I think. We haven't seen that before, but the settings are, there's one based on like more of a Chinese architecture and settings. So we get a lot of outfits from that. There's one that's more Middle Eastern. So the costumes, the scenery, and the different things the people are doing are more based on that type of culture. So it's really interesting to push through it all. I mean, a lot of the JRPGs give you different settings as you move along, but they really do a good job of tying everything into that setting. Of course, the main characters all still look like anime, but the background people all look like they're from that actual location.
Cool.
Are the females wife approved, or like if your kid walked in the room, would you be embarrassed?
Well, funny you should ask, because there was, I think I was maybe 40 hours into the game before we got the big public bath scene that all of these have. And there's nothing like it's naughty. Let's put it that way. There's nothing that's going to out of the range of the teen gamers. There's, it's more done for like comedy. Like in a lot of animes, you always get the scene where the guys are in the public bath over here or the hot spa. The girls are over here. The guys want to look at the girls. The girls are talking about their anatomy. Like it's a trope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you get a kick out of it and you move on, or if you're tired of it, you roll your eyes and you move on. The game's good enough that you can push through it either way.
Yeah.
And then soon after the scene right after that, the two guys left the area and they went to a nightclub, and then we had the pole dancing scenes. So
Okay.
there you go.
Nice.
But again, but it's all tied in. Like they're not just going down there like well, I don't want to reveal anything. I could give away some secrets that they built up to for a while with the pole dancing. So if you're playing the game and you're wondering about a couple of the characters and what their ulterior motives might be, wait till you get to the nightclub. That'll become clear.
Okay. 40 hours in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 40 hours in.
Yeah. What was your total game time, do you think, by the end?
Probably about double that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, and that's one of the things that threw me too, because the Trails of Cold Steel games are these huge like nations invading each other and political drama and the inner workings of government. And this, like literally, and I keep talking about the first 40 hours, I guess, you're that far before you're really doing anything other than going on basic missions. And then the whole thing's centered around a film festival. So it just has a very, very different feel to it. Now, I'm sure the further along we go, as you kind of realize when you get to the end of this game, that we're heading towards bigger things. And because the Trails of Cold Steel game started with 3 on the Switch, and I had never played 1 or 2, I was immediately embroiled in political drama the first time I played one of these games. So to start off like so small and gentle, just two characters, and Agnes is looking for an heirloom, and of course we know the heirloom is more important than she's leading on, and she's
Mm.
not exactly who she says she's going to be. But it was just very calm and gentle as you moved along for quite some time in this game. That was an interesting approach. That's not to say you're not involved, because they do a great job with the story, the characters, as I mentioned before, and in the review. There's a lot of narrative dumped on you throughout this whole game. There are scenes that literally are just there for you to get to know the characters. They don't drive the plot. They don't really reveal anything. This is how they're going to react if they're at a bar and someone offers them a drink and they're underage. We
Mm.
learn how they're going to respond, and we learn a bit about them, and we move on. So they really want you to get to know and like these characters, and they do a very good job with that. So you're involved, even if it is low stakes kind of adventure.
Wow. I mean, I like that they've changed it up, like that it is a different direction. And so
Yeah.
this is, yeah, like you're saying, this is a new, like Trails Through Daybreak is like a subset of the Legend of Heroes tales, and this is the first of a series in that vein. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
and there'll probably be 3 or 4 with this too. And like I mentioned, it does tie in. It's all in the same kingdom. It's in a different country, but they mention the other countries. And there is one character specifically who shows up in kind of grand fashion, and you're able to use that character from the previous games. But then gone, and you're right back to the normal people.
Mm. And is it set in like modern times then? If they've got nightclubs and stuff, it's like today's kind of world.
It's its own time. It's
Yeah.
kind of modern times. They're talking about how great it is to have devices that are kind of like cell phones.
Mhm.
There's different technology, but yeah, like the main character has a pickup truck, more or less, and he really loves his truck. So we're at least at a time where you can drive cars
Yeah. Okay.
and such. But as for like jets flying overhead, no, they've got like different kind of like spaceship blimp kind of things.
Oh, cool.
Like the kind of things that they would fly in Final Fantasy, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a
Yeah.
different type of technology, but it's a kind of a modern equivalent of what we have.
Cool. And just to clarify, this is a new game, as in hasn't been out previously and is now coming to Switch. This is actually new for all
Yes,
consoles. Yeah.
it's been out in Japan for a couple years, I believe,
Okay.
but it just got its Western release for multiple consoles today. Well,
Brilliant.
Friday.
And the one that you mentioned earlier, the Trails Through Daybreak 2 that was announced, that will be completely new for everyone next year.
I think that one's already out in Japan as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It may have just come out, but yes, it's getting its Western release for the first time in early 2025.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you for updating us on all things Legend of Heroes. Well, Trails Through Daybreak side of things. Very exciting. Glad you love it. Check out the review online if you'd like to read more about Kirk's thoughts. Were there any other little tidbits for the show before we close things off for the week?
I had one really quick thing for Trevor. I don't think we mentioned it before, but you played the Atari 50 collection, right?
Yes, it was great. I think I gave it a 9.
They announced, I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, or did we mention this?
Oh,
That
yeah.
they
No, we
are
didn't.
releasing 2 new tracks, whatever they call them, timelines. I think they're called timelines in the game.
Yeah.
One of them is the M Network games, which were when Intellivision repurposed some of their games for Atari 2600. So
That's right.
you can, yeah, and I'd completely forgotten the term M Network. But yeah, so you can get Intellivision games for the Atari 2600, and now you will be able to get them in the Atari 50 collection.
I,
So it's
I
like,
remember those boxes. They always looked a little different to as a kid. It's like these aren't. Well, of course, Atari didn't have a consistent necessarily labeling, but yeah, that's pretty cool. That sounds like a meaty update to
yeah,
the
is it
collection.
DLC? Is it DLC for that title?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're releasing an expanded edition of the collection that has them
Ah.
built in, and then they said these 2 new timelines. I can't remember what the other one was.
Ah.
Will be released as DLC for people who already own the collection.
Oh, that's
I think they're
cool.
doing a physical release too. That's going to be
Yeah,
more
Mm.
more complete. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, I saw you You posted that news. I forget when.
Yep.
Like a week ago or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a week.
Yeah, I did see that pop up.
And
That's
that's
cool.
already their second update. I think they added some games back in the day too, like maybe a dozen games or whatever.
Yep.
So
Well, it's good that they're continuing to support. Yeah,
yeah,
to add to that and
9.
support
That's
it.
what I
Yeah.
gave it a 9 before any updates. So
You
maybe
gotta
it's a
update your score.
9.5 now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's cool. Thank you, Kirk, for bringing that to our attention. Anything else from anyone? Trev, nothing to say?
Vote Quimby.
Welcome. Yes, thank you. Well, thank you both very much for joining me this week for the fun discussion that we've had on all things Nintendo and the games we've been playing. Thank you, listeners, for joining us as well. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please let us know if you did by leaving us a review on any of the podcasting channels or liking us on YouTube, and subscribe and hit that bell so you can get notifications. As I say, you can also follow us on social media if you'd like to keep up to date with our reviews, etc. And we're also putting out our next edition of the Pure Nintendo magazine. So if you'd like to grab yourself a copy, you can support us over at patreon.com/Pure Nintendo. We'd love to get that into your hands. So thank you again. And until next week, game on, everybody. Bye.
See ya.